And again, thank you for joining us as we continue the conversation. Hot conversation there by Johnny's Bite. All of us need to think about it because we already do know that Armstrong Gold Alogba is on the premises of Valco monitoring the situation there. The plant has been shut down. We'll bring you all the latest right here on the show. As we do that, we have to get the big issues running, the big conversations. And I'll introduce my guest in a moment. But before then, Soft Live Promo 2022. Make sure that you book now to the 15th of December 2022 and just stay for one night and get the second night for free in a standard room with free airport pickups on weekends. That's a great package. Also, pay just 4,200 Ghana cedis for 2 persons, 2,750 Ghana cedis for a person. Package including meals, and they will definitely include breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Free airport pickup service from Friday to Saturday, and all terms and conditions apply. Well, they have great discount, 10% on spa services. I always love spa. You know, my body is very skinny, so Charlie, it'll help. Free upgrade from standard room to standard sea view room from Monday to Thursday. All this is subject to availability. Make sure that you also catch a movie night at the cinema. Enjoy the swimming pool. The gym is also available, the snooker boards, and great pitch for volleyball. Upgrade of room available on request at a fee. Terms and conditions apply. Make sure you contact them through the phone line 050-157-0684 or 030-3977-773 for more details and reservations. But you can also email, and we're talking about sm@maharesorts.com/reservations. As we do that, let me just introduce my guest for the morning. Communicating for the president, Nana Dankwe Akufo-Addo, his government and the party, New Patriotic Party, is a former member of parliament for Okankwe North, Issa Fuseni. Before he became member of parliament, was one of the lead bankers in our country. How are you?
Good morning.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I was there last week. Last week Wednesday, I was
no,
there.
for me.
Yeah, for you, right? Yeah. Okay.
And then also, beside him, we have the former chair for the PNC, Bernard Mona. How are you? Will you be joining the demonstration? I'm told it's called Kumi Preko demonstration.
Good morning.
Good morning. You'll be joining, eh?
That's the one led by Council Martin Pegu. We will be joining. Personally, I will not be in town within that period.
Okay.
But the Arise Ghana movement will join with him on that occasion. Right. I have communicated with him. We have had series of discussions because the issues that he raised affect not only the bar, but it also affects almost every other Ghanaian. I will be surprised if Husseini will not participate in this particular demonstration.
There's no way Husseini will participate in a demonstration against his government. It's not possible.
And well, his colleagues in parliament have shown the way, and I will be surprised if he doesn't join that call.
Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Al-Hassan Soheyini. How are you, sir?
Terrific, Roland. How about you?
Oh, I'm okay. We've been joined on stream by Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, and well, he'll be joining us. He's an economist with the University of Ghana, the Economics Department. He's always a regular on the channel. But Issa Fuseni, how are you? Yeah, yesterday we were in town. The whole of yesterday we're following on the president's speech, and it looks like it just doesn't look good. This morning you go to the fuel stations, and the prices are just up the rafters. The hardship is real.
Good morning to you, Roland. Good morning to Honorable Suhini, and then good morning to the 3-star general, right, Bernard?
Yes.
Former chairman and now a political analyst. And a good morning to your viewers, particularly your viewers in Okankwe North. We heard the president speak on Sunday. The president, in the initial stages of the speech, did admit that times are not as rousy as he would have wanted to. He admitted that we find ourselves in some sort of challenging times, and he tried to put that in some perspective by looking at what is happening in our neighboring countries as well. We try to look at the global situation, and this is clear to us. I mean, in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, the government itself has admitted that things are not as rousy as we want to. But given where we find ourselves today, given where we are today, it's essential that we have not given up on our efforts to ensure that the hardships on the Ghanaian is reduced to the barest minimum. And the president said something that I was particularly happy with. He said that we are not going to take measures just to resolve the short-term challenges that we have. And when we talk short-term challenges, it's one of the solutions is to go to the IMF, like we said, like he decided in July. And that is what we have been following up. And he gave an update on our negotiations or our engagement with the IMF, that it's going well. It was hard. It was good to hear from the president about how that negotiations were going. The president went on to say that in all this adversity, in all these challenging times, it was okay. It was important that we took advantage of it to resolve the long-term issues that we have. And you saw the president did announce policies that will inure to our benefit in the long term if we accede to those policies. Amongst those policies was the review on how we imported certain items. And I take it that President also said that what he was saying, he didn't want to bore us with the nitty-gritties, which was scary and confusing to a lot of Ghanaians. And so in the coming weeks, and
is that what he said, or you are trying to clarify?
I mean, somewhere. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but somewhere in the speech he did mention that these were broad policy headlines, and that in the coming weeks we're going to have the details come up. Particularly, we are in the month of November, and we sometime in the next 2-3 weeks, we expect the Minister of Finance to go to Parliament with our fiscal policy for the ensuing year. In there, we expect that details of some of these headlines will be in there. How to ensure that our importation bill on rice, vegetable oil, poultry products. And in fact, this morning whilst I was coming here, I was hearing that groups like AGI, Guta, and the likes have been in very important meetings trying to see how they could place themselves in the policy announcement that the president did do on Sunday. Hopefully, by the time all of this comes to a conclusion, we would have felt the impact. The president also did not just look forward. He also went back to measures that the government had taken, the cut on discretionary spending by the assemblies, the cut in salaries of government appointees. He did announce that all those measures were
Are you referring to the
continued.
30%?
Yes, to the 30%. He did say that all of this was going to continue. In there also, the president did also make a very profound announcement, or he did make a statement, and I think that is actually caught up with a lot of Ghanaians. I mean, when the president said "Sikampe today," it's quite instructive. I think that we needed to hear that. We needed to hear that because
Sikampe Dede.
Sikampe Dede. It's true. Sikampe Dede. Sikampe quietness. Sikampe from you know that because look, going forward on Thursday, I had listened to my friend Dr. Ato Forsen talk down on the CD, the fact that there was going to be haircut. All of this creates panic, and it gives in to speculators to get into the market, to be to speculate on the currency going forward, and it affects the value. And this are.
Are you saying that
is not unique to
Mr. Hussein?
Are
you saying that when you
Ghana?
go to the banks currently, with all the directives and the missives that the banks are issuing to ask customers, that if I go in right now to go liquidate my T-bills or my bonds, you look at what I'll get to lose are higher than what the ordinary times will be. Those are not haircuts.
You see, for what is described as a haircut, it's about the return you make on your investment. If I invest 100 Ghana cedis in a security, and then it comes to times like this, and you are telling me that for the 100 cedis that I had invested, I have to take a haircut. Instructively, Atufosin has no hair, so I'm wondering the haircut that is. So
let's not belittle the subject. Try to put it in semantics.
No.
Because our viewers are watching, and sometimes some of these things. That's why this morning I was very particular.
Roland, it's just by the I said by the way. I'm saying
go
that
ahead.
because of the relationship I have with them. You know, we're on the same committee whilst I was in Parliament.
All right.
So it just,
okay.
So when I had invested 100 cedis and you come to tell me that you're unable to give me back my investment because of some challenges we're having, and so rather than me get 100 cedis back, you're going to pay me 90 cedis or 80 cedis. That is a haircut. That is what we call a haircut in finance terms. But if I am going to get my principal back, but you see, the return you make on some of the securities, like bonds and all that, it's dependent on the interest rate regime pertaining at a particular point in time. It's a risk.
And some of these banks have issued those statements.
That's what investments are. It's a risk return. So the pertaining macroeconomic indicators will actually indicate the sort of return you make. So for any investor, first you look at the preservation of your principal. That's of utmost interest. So when it is touched, then that could be said to be a haircut. But as to what the return you get, it's a risk return thing, and it depends on the macroeconomic situation at every point in time for most securities. So it is not a matter of we getting a haircut or not. The president was instructive.
Very categorical.
What's categorical, you see? And most of the times when you had gone to the fund for such negotiations, they allow you to bring your own program. In your own program, you are able to prioritize policies that you cannot renege on, right? And we have been able to build confidence in Ghanaians to invest in.
So currently we're negotiating on the program with the IMF.
Oh, of course. I mean, the negotiations is back and forth. Okay. Last week or so, a whole team from the OGN, where they were at the meeting of the World Bank, and the negotiations continued, and we were told when they came back that in the next week or two there will be another team from the IMF down here. So it is one of the measures we are looking at shortly, so resolving in the short term our challenges. But beyond that, we are looking at longer term resolution.
Today is 5 minutes.
Prices. The four prices you mentioned. Yes, the president did mention that. The president mentioned that. Look, rather than us, we know the determinants, the currency situation, the world prices of crude are two major determinants of it. Rather than just sit aloof, the president said he's engaging on other ways for us to get this more cheaper.
The refrain is that the president was not very categorical in how some of these things were going to be.
That is what he said. He said that, and he was very instructive. Look, if he, I mean, it was a speech that if he had actually gone into the details, maybe it would take hours.
He is the president of the Republic of Ghana.
Of course.
He's the one who should have communicated directly, clearly,
of course, and this is
communication. For all of, because you are now explaining what he said in English.
I listen to the president just like any other Ghanaian. And if you listen to him, what I'm saying, it shouldn't be new to you, because I am just re-echoing what the president said on Sunday. Yes. So it is nothing.
Mr. Hussein, and you are saying that the president didn't want to take the win out of the sails of who?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, you are saying that he didn't want to be categorical. You didn't want to be broad.
What I'm saying, there are so many issues to be tackled at this point in time. If the president was going to go into detail, probably it was going to be some Fidel Castro type of speech for hours on ending. So he's given the broad framework. In the coming, we are in November today. In the next 2-3 weeks, our fiscal policy for 2023.
So we should wait until the budget is read.
I didn't say
when we have an emergency situation, Mr. Husseini.
I said in there will be details on how some of these policies will be rolled out.
In the
budget.
So
let's just.
For example, at the beginning of this crisis, which began months ago, there were expectations from some of the lead economists, for example, that said, because transport cost was going up, perhaps, maybe for those who tend to cut food from the hinterlands or the farm gate, we can pool resources and have some transport made available for them. That reduces costs on the price for the consumer. And some of those detailed issues, like, for example, suggesting that people should work from home so that it reduces their transportation costs, like what was suggested by the former president, John Dramani Mahama, for example. And some other innovative means that the president could have well elaborated on, instead of just being very, in my observation, ambiguous.
Roland, good morning to you, Fuseni, and then Suhini, and to your many viewers. And this morning, I want to pat the back of Johnny for the tremendous effort he's making, particularly to ensure that young people get placement. When he was about concluding, he made a profound statement that people with beard, plenty beard, young people, were described as they had nothing in their heads and that they were carrying coconut heads. But inside the coconut, apart from the sap, you also have water. But some of them are also carrying cassava sticks that are not able to walk, and yet they are occupying offices.
A woman.
And so it's important that, Johnny, next time you should be able to distinguish between the cassava sticks that can easily break and then the coconut heads that are full of nutrition. It will be remiss on my part if this morning I do not celebrate the electoral victory of Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
Is it conclusive?
The right-wing leader in Brazil. Okay, please go ahead.
It will be remiss on my part if I do not congratulate him on the electoral victories, staging such an astonishing comeback in the history of politics, particularly so when every mud was thrown at him. He was imprisoned. He served about 580 days in prison until the courts overturned the ruling. He was prevented from contesting the previous elections just because they thought that he could easily win. And after staying in prison, he still came back from prison and won to liberate the people of Brazil. I joined the many progressives across the world who think that this victory is a victory for the socialists across, and I congratulate him. I've seen many presidents in Africa congratulating him, from South Africa to where. I have not yet come across that of President Akufo-Addo. I don't know what we are waiting for. Having said that, let me say also that if you take the Daily Graphic, page 5, you will see that the South African Minister for Tourism is asking President Ramaphosa to step down over corruption scandals, and you can look at it. That is to tell you the kind of democracy we are running. And I want to start on that basis to say that when I looked at Husseini's Sakura head, and I compared that with Atufor's Sakura head, and then I quickly moved to that of the president.
Mine is a choice.
I'm wondering which one of them will require a haircut.
Okay.
But on a more serious note, for the records, when we say haircut in finance, it does not simply mean the ability or the absence or the denial of the payment of principal. It means probably 3 or 4 issues. One, that you could suffer a deferment in the payment of your principal, that you could lose the interest or profits or the returns on the investment that you have made, or 3, that you will be paid in bits even as your investment matures. The president saying that there is no haircut, and for Kojo Oppong Nkrumah to come and say that what the president means is that people will not lose their principal, is not conclusive of the haircut. Indeed, what Kojo Oppong Nkrumah quickly tried to do was that, look, in the process there will be a haircut of some sort. Either people's principals will not be paid in full, it will be paid in certain proportion, but they will be paid. But if you are paying me my principal, I invested my 20,000 maybe in January, and you are coming to pay me 20,000 cedis in November. If you tell me that you have not affected my principal, then your sense of economics is warped. The sense of economics is totally warped. So what it means is that there is uncertainty
in the market.
In the market about what the president actually meant when he said there is no haircut. And so let's not jump into the conclusion that indeed nothing is going to happen to people's investment. In fact, the president's speech and the explanation offered by Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, and these days it has become too rampant that anytime the president speaks, he speaks English and somebody will have to come and translate or interpret English into English for us, then there is a problem. When the president speaks in Twi or in Akan, somebody is coming in Akan to explain what the president actually meant by what he said. There is a problem. It means that the president is not communicating. And so it is important for us to look at it from that perspective. Look, in the president's speech, and worrying is the president's failure to admit that, look, some things have gone wrong. Is it not the same president who has chided our going to the IMF, criticized every government that has gone to the IMF, and saying that the IMF, in the perspective of the president, is like a devil, and no one should go to the IMF, and that his predecessor, John Mahama, went to the IMF, he would take us out of the IMF. When he came, not only did he elongate the processes, but he went to the IMF a second time.
Well, eventually took us out in 2019.
You don't understand. We were supposed to exit in 2018.
Yeah, sure.
We had missed all the criteria.
Can I?
No, perhaps.
Can I?
No. Please go. No.
You don't have a pen. I can give you a pen.
No, please give me my pen.
No, you can. No, I can.
I've made a note of it.
Give me my pen. Please go ahead.
Permit me to then make this statement.
Well,
General.
Permit me.
Well, we also have joining us on stream from the Economics Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, and we're going to have some conversation. Please continue.
And so when the president, who comes, a program that was supposed to end in 2018, he extends it to 2019. After 2019, he goes to the IMF to go and take COVID relief support. Then, currently, we are at the IMF. That in itself should be at an admittance that Mr. President should tell the people of Ghana.
So you're saying in that speech you should have said that I'm sorry?
There is no doubt that an apology saying that, look, I underestimated what an IMF program could do for a government. And today I have gone to the IMF. So citizens of this nation, forgive me for I underestimated that an IMF support is capable at least to contain the immediacy and the urgency of our problems. You are the IMF, and you don't see anything wrong with your going to the IMF. Now, the president, honestly, when the president spoke, I was asking myself, what were we expected to get immediately?
What solutions?
So what were the solutions?
Oh, there are 12-pointer solutions. Should I read them out to you?
What was the immediate solution? What was the medium-term solution? And what was the long-term solution? In those things that the president spoke about, and indeed what I have said is that the president rather engineered speculation and panic again. Yet he is saying that people who are speculating will be arrested. When the president comes, to tell us that there is going to be a review of the import, it means that we are going to have an import regime.
Certainly.
And he's talking about oil, he's talking about rice, and some other things. Now, when you are talking about rice, what it means is that those who are already importing rice, you have put in place some panic amongst them. Should they be importing rice, what regime are you going to impose on them? And is that regime going to be in the form of import duty that the rice will get to the port and they will not be able to pay so that they can clear it off? At the time that you are talking about these measures, what measures have we put in place say that if we impose high taxes, import duties on these products, we are domestically going to be able to contain the shortfall.
You're saying the president should have announced all these. They say it's going to be in the bigger framework of the budget.
Listen to me. To do rice, you need a minimum of 3 to 4 months. That planning did not start yesterday. As we are speaking, we are harvesting rice, which did not factor the current exigencies in the time of production and farming. So the rice that we are producing today, if we decide that we are going to marshal oil, it will not be able to close the gap of the imports. Do you understand what I mean? So what certainly that means is that when you say we are going to impose some rigidities, that means that you have thrown panic into the system. You are talking about cooking oil. Just when you finish picking, petroleum prices went up. Tor is not processing the oil or the crude that we produce in Ghana.
So are we in trouble?
So we are in heavy trouble just after the president's speech. And I am a bit sad that, look, the hope that we were expecting was totally missing in the president's delivery on Sunday.
Now, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Roland. And thanks for having me.
Yes. Before Mr. Suhuyini comes in, the present 12-point measures, the communication from the circles of government, including Mr. Fuseni here, is that the broader framework of explanation will be in the budget. But I'm thinking to give some assurances to the market, apart from just mentioning those headlines, didn't we end up rather creating some panic within the public in terms of what really the direction were in a period where we needed a policy rescue?
Well, I'm not sure the president's speech created more panic in the market. Rather, I'm of the view that his pronouncement, especially with regards to the haircut, was supposed to calm the market, given the fact that many people had already made those pronouncements. Where they've got those ideas from, only they can tell. Because if government is in talk with IMF and you're talking about debt restructuring, and you go ahead of government to announce haircut, which caused panic in the market, and the market reacted, and people started buying dollars in terms of their speculative motive, and then the cedi further depreciated, then you have caused more harm than good to the market. And so I rather think the president's pronouncement or announcement was to calm the market. And then you mentioned the broad categories, the broad areas that the president spoke. He could not have given so much details in the few minutes that he had to speak. Obviously, I mean, even the budget, when the finance minister is reading the budget, he gives highlights. The details are always in that bulky document where people like us who will be interested in the details will just go and take it and read. And so I strongly believe that the president was just giving highlights, and the budget will give us the details. And even the negotiations with the IMF has not ended. I haven't seen the document. I don't know if you have seen the document. I'm talking about the staff level agreement. I have not seen the document. And so you cannot, talk so much about a document that you have not seen. I'm sure the president has seen it. But everything is also about timing. If the president spills out everything right now, then, when the fund has not agreed on a certain issue or certain clauses, they'll be causing more harm than good.
Okay.
So I strongly believe that we should not go ahead of ourselves.
All right.
Let the people where we have elected, the ministers and the president, take charge and make certain announcements.
Right.
This haircutting that started by people who are not even economists, and they have not done any analysis, and they just want to give false information, and the market is reacting to false information, must stop. If you want to do debt restructuring, there are so many ways of doing debt restructuring. I just put about 6 measures here on top of my head. I'm sure there's more to it. 6. Even right now, I just took my pen to write down 6 things that you can do in debt restructuring. Haircut, in my view, should be at the bottom. It should be the last option. When was the first time or the last time Ghana did a haircut, or any African country did a haircut? Those who even attempted to do a haircut, they have suffered. The political, economic, and social ramifications of a haircut are so dire. It's not something we should joke with as a country at all. I don't know where this is coming from.
Let me ask a question.
We are causing more panic in the financial market that we are doing good to ourselves. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we destroying ourselves as Ghanaians?
All right, don't get worked up. There's a lot that we have to talk about. Now, since you are a lead economist, let me, because I'm a layman, apart from what I learned undergrad. We have a document that is being negotiated with the IMF level in Washington. They came here first. They came to engage us. Then we decided to put together a document. So we went to Washington. Then they are going to come back here. And then the president goes around engaging stakeholders. AGI, GUTA, these people, these people, these people. But the document is in Washington. And the president says that, one, the engagement is to calm nerves. Two, is also to source contributions into the main framework. Since you are an astute economist, how do we marry that? The document is in Washington, we are discussing that, and now we are doing stakeholder engagement, or there was a broader one that we didn't know about. What do you make of it?
Which document is in Washington? You mean the IMF negotiation document?
Certainly.
Hello, Roland, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I could not hear you well. Yeah,
okay.
What document are you talking about?
I'm saying that we are negotiating with the IMF, and it's based on a certain strategy or document, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we come back here and we are now engaging AGI and some of those relevant stakeholders. And the president comes to announce that. Of course, that is also supposed to calm nerves. Why is it that we didn't do the engagement broadly before we went to Washington?
Well, I'm not sure that the information you have suggests that the president or the government did not do any consultations before going to the IMF. In fact,
I'm not saying he didn't do consultations. I'm saying that the stakeholder engagement that he is doing publicly and announcing to us, the communication is that it's also partly to calm nerves locally and also get views from them to also enrich that negotiation with the agreement. There are insights that we have according to it. So I'm telling you that. What do you make of it?
That's what I'm saying, that the negotiations that I know of with the meeting with the Bank of Ghana and Forest Bureau and AGI was specifically about the forest market. Or am I not telling the truth? Because that was the whole idea of getting them together and see how, because GUTA had already written a letter to the presidency that they wanted the dollar to be pegged in terms of payment of their duties and etc. So I think that those negotiations were purposely for the forest market. And I'm saying that we don't know whether the government did not do any consultations before going to Washington. They might have done some negotiations that we are not aware of. And it still does not make it any wrong thing if we come back and still get negotiations, because when it comes to debt restructuring, which is the first hurdle that we must take, you need the commercial banks that have bought government bonds and treasury bills. You need to talk to them. And these negotiations are necessary. And we have not come into any conclusion whether there will be haircut or not, right? And so you don't go ahead of the negotiation and make certain pronouncements. The president's statement last Sunday was to restore hope, restore confidence, and calm the markets. And in my view, that is what the speech sought to do. I didn't expect any more details in that speech because he has already indicated that there will be subsequent broadcasts of that, and that the budget will be read soon, and that the document for the IMF program will come out soon. And so negotiations before and after the going to Washington, I'm not sure it is out of place to even further negotiate with the stakeholders after they have left Washington. But the point is the false information. If you're not preview, or even if the president comes to you, comes to TV3, goes to Joy to have negotiations with journalists about what they think should be done to restore the value of the city or to restore confidence in the economy, and you just come out of the meeting and broadcast that this is what is going to happen, then you're causing more worry to the situation, to the problem. So we should be mindful of the information we put across. This was what he sought to do about this Sika Mpedede thing. If you give wrong information, the market will react. And the market has been reacting. And I've said in my earlier submission that part of the steep depreciation of the city was due to the false information channeled out. I received many calls and emails and WhatsApp from friends and family from across the world asking me if they have to withdraw their funds from Treasury Bureau Board because they have heard of a possible haircut. And this is causing more trouble in our economy.
I know that I only heard the haircut thing last week, so I'm wondering, but the depreciation started steeply, just 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Well, Roland, good morning to my colleagues on the panel and our viewers, especially the good people of Tamale North constituency. With all due respect to Dr. Sarkodie, just like you, I am not an economist, but at least the little economics I was taught in school did not say that when you are faced with an economic situation, you are disallowed or disbarred from, analyzing it and looking at possible outcomes. Nobody, disbars anyone from looking at possible outcomes. And if people, based on what we were going through, were talking about the possible outcomes, it will be, unfair to describe them as, those, or to refer to them as those responsible for.
Well, the president has said there will be no haircut.
That is also speculation. And you see, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, maybe I'll refer Dr. Sarkodie. I'll refer Dr. Sarkodie to Dr. Bawumia's tweet, which has been making, the trends lately when he was in opposition. And we experienced a similar, depreciation of our city. Not to this level, though, but you had some steep depreciation of the city at the time. He said that people should stop blaming speculators and deal with the fundamentals of the economy. And so Dr. Sarkodie knows this, that yes, speculators may have a role to play, but how significant is their role? And I dare tell you that the president was also speculating. In fact, I just received a text from, a friend of mine in Takrady who says that the president's assurance that there will be no haircut is like a patient who leaves a doctor after diagnosis and decides the doctor has not prescribed any medication. He has just analyzed the situation, diagnosed the situation, yet to prescribe a medication, and he goes home to tell the family that I am not going to be giving paracetamol. Are you the doctor? I am not, or even if I'm giving paracetamol, I won't take it. Then how are you going to be cured? Because I'm saying the president is speculating because the IMF in this case is a doctor. You are still engaged in the diagnostic process. The doctor has not prescribed anything. And then you have already determined for yourself that, you are not going to take paracetamol, when paracetamol may be part of, the prescription that you'll be given. So the president, just like those that are accused of suggesting there will be a haircut, is also speculating because there's really nothing that has been agreed yet. And let us, maybe the president is missing something.
Well, the president's a president,
but he is missing something.
Look, first of all, he's managing the economy.
First of all, Roland, he missed a great opportunity. He missed a great opportunity.
What do you mean, the president missed?
Yes. He missed
what opportunity did he miss?
The opportunity that he had to calm nerves and to speak clearly about the problem that we have, how we got to where we are and how he was going to take us.
Have you seen the 12 pointers?
He missed a very big opportunity because the people of Ghana were anxious and the people of Ghana were expectant of, you know, a certain level of clarity about our situation and how we're going to come out of that, you know, situation. Unfortunately, the president handlers and maybe this government thinks that motivational speeches can fix a problem like this. This is not a problem that motivational speeches
What were you expecting?
Resolve. He needed, like I said, to be clear, succinct, so that it does not require people coming to explain to us what he meant. For example, Roland, this is a president who came into office with a lot of goodwill. He may, or the government may say that, well, they inherited some liabilities. I'm not going to even talk about the assets that they inherited, which were huge. Let's even look at the liabilities they inherited. They inherited a debt stock of about 120 billion. As we speak, if the president was to hand over to another government today, he would have been handing over a debt liability of 520 billion. Have we gone or have we come? Have we gone or have we come? And the question is, what has he done with the about 402 billion that he alone has borrowed? More than the 120 billion that all governments from Nkrumah borrowed. He has in 6 years borrowed 402 billion. What did he do with it? If he had invested these borrowings into productive sectors, those sectors would have been generating income for the government and revenue for the government today, and our debt service, you know, situation would not have been as critical as it is, requiring a debt restructuring today. But the investment pattern of this government from 2017 has been questionable, has been a suspect, apart from the corruption and the mismanagement. Apart from this 402 billion that he has borrowed, we are still saddled with debts in road funds. We have debts at Cocoa Board. We have debts, you know, over 100 billion debt owed to contractors and suppliers. So what have we been using the 402 billion that we have been borrowing for? And these are the reasons why we require a debt restructuring. And so the president should have been telling us what he has been using these borrowings for.
It will be
that is budget. Part of the clarity
it will be
that
in the
we
budget.
needed.
The broader financial statement
and how those
framework.
investments, you know, that he did 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, was going to help us in coming out of this debt unsustainable level that we have found ourselves. For example, when the previous government borrowed to construct the Ghana gas infrastructure, we know the gains we are making from it as a country, don't we? Apart from the jobs that it has created, it is saving us a lot of forex. Can you imagine if we didn't have a Ghana gas infrastructure, how our city would have been performing? Would have been requiring more than the $400 million that we require to bring in fuel. Well, so Roland, I'm saying the president missed that opportunity to tell us what he has been using the huge borrowings.
Dr. Owusu Sarkodie and academics like him think that such comments merely also tend to fixate the market and create a lot of tension and speculation.
That's the point I'm making. So the president had the duty to be clear.
Well,
so that the market...
He said, according to he did that.
That's fine. But I'm saying that with all due respect, I disagree with him.
Right.
And I think that the president rather also engage in speculation. And this president must begin to understand that people have lost the confidence that they used to have in him when he first came into office. The respect that they used to have, or the trust, not respect, the trust that they used to have, you know, in him, have all been lost. And he has to work hard to regain that confidence if he is expecting any support whatsoever from the people of Ghana to get out of this situation that his reckless decisions, you know, has plunged us in. Okay. So Roland,
please wrap up.
Yes. So I think that because I have to wrap up, let me just say that the president and his handlers thought that this is a problem that motivational speeches can resolve.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we are in a situation where motivational speeches alone are not enough.
Okay.
And so, for example, we would have expected the president to tell us about what he's going to do about the size of his government. Everybody have been complaining about that, you know, in this country. Not only the number of ministers,
he did mention
but
the
number of chief executives and deputy chief executives. We would have been happy to hear what the president had to say about that. And again, we would have also expected to hear something in relation to what do you call it? Gains that we have made from
the 30% cut?
No, okay. Crude. Because to this morning, we are all discussing the issue of fuel and how much we are going to have to pay, how much more we are going to pay when we leave the studio. When this government came into office, I mean this year, the 2022 budget, not when they came into office, the 2022 budget actually estimated a revenue of about, I think, 700 million, Ghana cedis from oil proceeds. The first half of 2022, we have made a windfall of about 8.7 billion. When government expected about, 700 million for the whole of the year, they have made a windfall of about 8.7 billion. We would have expected the president to tell us what he's going to use that windfall
This is who we need to be in the budget.
to cushion us. That is the clarity that is lacking in the president's speech. And so he said he's going to come again, but I doubt if he's going to come, better when he does.
Dr. Owusu-Sarkodie, are you still on the stream?
Yeah, I'm here, Roland.
The president's 12 pointers restore macroeconomic stability through an IMF-supported programs. He did say he wouldn't go, but now, of course, we're already there. Tackle cost of living by working to stabilize prices of petroleum products through new supply arrangements. They're already up this morning. Encourage traders to tone down profiteering, which is contributing to inflationary pressures.
I mean, how are you going to measure that?
And then restore debt sustainability by reducing debt to GDP ratio to 55% by 2028. He wouldn't be in power by 2028.
Again, Roland, he doesn't tell you how he's going to do that.
And you're saying all these will be in the broader framework of the budget, right?
Yeah, it's likely to be so, but some of them
likely.
Short term, I'm coming. But anyway, but before I answer your question, Honorable Suhini, my friend, I didn't say that if you are not an economist, you cannot talk about any issue in the economy. What I said was, some people just came out into the news, purported to be economists, and they are not economists.
Which people?
You can say that you are a journalist, you are talking about it, fair enough. You're an MP, you are talking about it, fair enough. But there are some people who are not trained economists, and they are propounding serious theories that doesn't have any economic background or principles, and that.
Can I ask Doc a question?
No, Mr. Suhini, let him talk.
Possible outcome or not?
Let me finish.
In debt restructuring, is a haircut a possible outcome in debt restructuring?
Please.
Let's Dr. Owusu-Sarkodie tell the market that there's going to be a haircut.
Can we listen to him?
It's an option. We are saying the president.
Can we listen to him?
Not an option that he's going to
you have the benefit.
Please, can we listen to him? Please. Dr. Owusu-Sarkodie, please go ahead.
You have the benefit of being in the studio. I should have come there this morning.
Yeah.
Because you keep interrupting me, and I would have also interrupted you.
Yeah.
I'm saying that Dr. Bawumia's statement that people that you referred to in the past, I did not agree with Dr. Bawumia then, and I will not agree with him now. Speculation has always been part of us, and you have to manage it. So if Dr. Bawumia made a statement then, and you disagree with him, and people are making reference to it, fair enough. And I did not agree with Dr. Bawumia then. So speculation has always been part of us, and there's the need to manage it. Even in inflation, there's something we call expectation in inflation. It's still there that you have to manage it, right? Now, in answering your question, you asked me whether the 12 points that the president mentioned, all of them, the details we should wait for the budget. No. there are some of them like, talking about the profiteering by market women and men. These actions can be taken within days, within now, before the budget is read. There's this issue about trying to get affordable crude oil from other suppliers. This thing doesn't have to wait for the budget. It can go on before the budget. The thing about restoring macroeconomic stability and negotiations with the IMF.
I think so he even agrees. Okay, you're back.
Yes, I'm back.
So
can I go on?
No, yeah. So please don't go on. So you even agree because you are even further explaining what the president said. So the president could have just said that all these are in motion, are being done, etc. He didn't say that, but you are now even explaining. So we could have included all this in that speech. Is that not it? You do agree?
You asked me, Roland, you're being smart here. You asked me a specific question.
Oh, you are cornering me, Dr.
I'm giving you a specific answer. You asked me whether the 12 things that he mentioned, we should wait for the details in the budget. And I have said no, not all of them. And I've given you examples of the things that can be started now, even today as we speak, before the budget. That was my answer to your question.
All right.
It doesn't satisfy you?
No, I'm fully satisfied. I only asked a question, but you have refused to answer, so that's okay.
What question have I refused to answer? What question?
I'm saying that, so the president should have included what you just suggested in the speech. That even makes it unwholesome, his speech.
What did I suggest?
What you are suggesting that immediately should have stated, we're already in town, or from tomorrow, this is what is going to take place. We'll be in the market controlling or meeting and telling them they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. Is that not what you're suggesting? Already we should have been doing that, right?
But you asked me a specific question that should we wait for the details in the budget? And I said no.
Exactly. And I'm also adding up to what you're saying. So all these things should have been included in the speech.
Roland.
Something like asking the market women not to profiteer.
We all know the president had engaged all
the
stakeholders.
Yes, I can hear you. Please conclude for me. Conclude for me, sir.
No. I've answered your question, but you are asking me another question that should that have been included in the statement? So you wanted the president to say, okay, from tomorrow we are going to start clamping down on those who are profiteering. Is that what you are asking?
Don't you think he should have?
Perhaps the president has appointed ministers who are in charge of all these things. And the president makes pronouncements, and the ministers take those actions, and then implement those actions. And so, for example, the president can say, well, let's look for suppliers that can give us affordable crude oil. That is a directive by the president. The sector minister will then have to start the negotiations. If the sector minister thinks that he can achieve that before the budget, he will do it. If he thinks that it must be discussed on the floor of parliament, because MPs, I know I'm not a law student, but I know that there are certain appropriations that cannot be done until parliament has given the approval. And in that sense, then they have to wait for the budget to be approved. But that those appropriations, those things that do not need the approval of parliament, can be started. Now, on the issue of haircut, I have stated that when we are doing a debt restructuring, there are so many ways of doing it. And I said that on top of my head, I have mentioned about 6. I have 6 written here. It could be more.
All right.
Haircut is just one of the options.
Okay, so haircut is one of the options in debt restructuring.
Yes. In my view, it is the last option. Okay. Because the consequences of a haircut in the literature has been there. The theory does not support it, and the empirical literature or two does not support it.
All right.
The ramification is serious. It has serious economic, social, and political ramifications. And so if anybody is talking about debt restructuring, that person will not begin with a haircut.
All right.
And so if you go ahead with the negotiation and says that Ghana government is going to give a haircut without talking about the other options, then you're doing more harm to the economy than good.
All right.
I go to the market to buy prices at a higher price. I am not subsidized. We all feel the heat in the economy, food prices, energy prices going up. We all want the best for the economy. But because I said we should not go ahead of the president or the negotiations and announce haircut and being a bad economist or a bad person, then I'm sorry. The truth is that haircut is one of the options. It is not the first option.
Okay.
And so,
but you do agree that it's one of the options. Dr. Edusa Akodie.
One of the options.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have to end it because we want to go for a break and then come and have some conclusive remarks on the subject. We're going for a break. We'll be right back. Well, Dr. Edusa Akodie, lead economist, the economics department of the University of Ghana, giving us some great contributions and insights there. And so you take a look at what he's saying. I think it makes sense. We don't have to be speculative.
Yeah, so I agree with him, especially when he concludes by agreeing with all of us that indeed a haircut is part of the options on the table.
But he says it's
when
the
you
last.
Are engaged.
It should be the last.
Who rated it? Who rated it?
He says that.
Which one is the first?
In which book is it said that it's the last option? In fact, banking sector collapse. I mean, many of us believe that there were other options that could have been used.
Cleanup.
It wasn't a cleanup because our banks haven't been cleaned up. It was a banking sector collapse. You understand? We all understand that there were other options. And maybe somebody would have told you that the collapse would have been the last approach. But this government chose it as a first approach. So if once a haircut is on the table and the government is not communicating to us about the options that they are considering, as they engage with the
president
IMF,
has said
you cannot blame,
is not part
you
of
cannot
it.
blame people
the president has
who were
categorical.
ahead of the president because he left a vacuum. And so they fill that vacuum with one of the options that is on the table when you are engaged in debt restructuring. You cannot blame those people. And unfortunately for us, when the president got the opportunity to speak to us, he also ended up being speculative.
But he said it was not going to be haircut. How is that speculative?
Roland, what is a haircut? What really? It's a haircut. For example, if we are going to go by the explanation after the president's speech of the information minister, Kojo Opong Nkrumah, if we are going to go by, his explanation, he says that the president meant that your principal will not be touched. Now, what is in that explanation is that your accruals, your interest would have been touched, would be cut.
And that's your money.
And that's your money. Again, if you invested 20,000 Ghana cedis in January.
He said it may be.
Yes, if you invested 20,000 Ghana cedis in January, if you are to agree and accept what Kojo Nkrumah is saying, if you wanted to liquidate in November, you are going to get your 20,000 Ghana cedis that you invested in January. 20,000 cedis, the number of bags of cement it could have bought in January, 20,000 in November will buy less than half of that number.
Well, it's better than nothing.
So exactly, but that is still a cut. That is still, the money may be the same, but the value isn't. The amount of money you invested may be the same, but the value isn't. And that is still a cut. So I am saying that the president said nothing when he said that there will be no haircut. And the Minister of Information has made it worse when he tells us that it is your principal that will be paid back to you because it does not factor in the time value of money. But Roland, I'm saying there were very simple things that the president could have said to us as a people to give hope and to inspire and to rally the nation around him in getting a solution to the problems that we face. I would have wished that you walk us through the 12 points that he made.
Oh, let me walk you.
Just one. Maybe you don't have to finish everything, but just let us examine them one by one, and I'll tell you how unclear and how ambiguous.
Let me take you through.
They are.
Let me take you through.
You want me to make more?
No.
The first one was
no.
You were mentioning them.
No. I mentioned up to 4. We're not going to go through.
Yeah, we may not go through. But
let me just read through.
I will not.
Let me read through.
Yes.
I will not accept what you did last week.
Oh no, please. After that, we only have 5 minutes.
How?
Restore economic stability through an IMF program. Number 2,
it's ongoing.
Tackle cost of living by working to stabilize prices of petroleum products through new supply arrangement. It's ongoing.
So he talks about new supply arrangement. But I've just told you. But how is that going to stabilize the prices? I've just told you.
No, the prices have just increased.
I've just told you that the government has made a windfall of about 8.7 billion as a result of the increase in oil market, world market prices. What is the president doing about that windfall?
Encourage traders to tone down profiteering, which is contributing to inflationary pressure.
How is he going to do that?
He's met them.
How is he going to do that?
Even in banking terms, regulation of banks, there's something called moral suasion, where the central bank governor, the central banks that because of our current situation, this is why you want...
You are wrestling this morning. It's very much unlike you.
You're not allowing me to...
Roland, if I buy to sell... Roland, if I buy to sell...
Roland, you're not allowing me to make my point.
My suppliers sell to me at a certain price, and I have to also sell to make profit. We are operating a free market system. We do not have price, regulation in this country.
But
so how is the president going to?
How is the president going to ensure empathy to them? A moral situation is part of economic management.
Motivational speeches will not solve this problem. What you need is to stabilize the
Drink water.
Once you stabilize the city, and then people now have to pay less. I mean, if I was using the last week when I was here, if I was using $100,000 to trade. Today,
Roland,
please, I will, with $100,000, I'm going to get half of.
So Roland, I know you've been a broadcaster, so I know how you go about it. No, please wait. You'll be the last, so that you sum everything up for government. Please.
First, let it be clear that
I'm drinking the water.
Please drink the water.
You don't have to go through.
The tension is high in the studio.
Before you can talk about how you feel. There cannot be a better economist than the person who is feeling the economy. And therefore, let anyone who sits at any corner know that the better judge of whether the economy is doing well or not is the person who lives in that economy and how he or she is faring.
Right.
It's not a classroom affair. It's not about how many degrees you have acquired in economics. Second, let it be clear.
Please, you have only 3 minutes.
That we don't stand in shame because we spoke about some of the things that the president considered speculation. We actually stand in pride because we made those pronouncements. Because
when the president was specific?
Because the president cannot be trusted for his pronouncement.
Oh, but that's not fair.
I didn't come here to speak fairness to you. I came to speak what I need to speak. The president cannot be trusted. This is a president who said IMF is satanic. By his pronouncement, his utterances, he is in the IMF. Not only is he in the IMF, he sees the IMF as the ultimate solution to the crisis in which we find ourselves. So when Dr. Sarkodia comes to tell us that no, the president said we are not going to have a haircut, he doesn't listen to the president, because if he has been listening to the president,
no, but the president was specific.
He would have known that
no
this is a president
for investors in government instruments.
Let me tell you, Dr. Sarkodia again stated that. Why? When have we ever seen in Africa or in Ghana that there is a haircut? In the banking sector collapse, was there not a haircut? Was this government
Clean up. Collapsing.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Will you have your turn? Or when you are having your turn, I can do...
The time is going.
When he is having his turn, I will do what he has just done to me.
Please go ahead.
Because I don't do that.
You have 2 more minutes. That's 120
seconds. We've been talking about this thing.
Please, let him have it.
I'm saying that with the banking sector collapse, there was a haircut. People lost their investment. Their investment were abated. That was a haircut. Must it be announced before we get to know that it's a haircut? So, you see, when people are speaking and they want to make that kind of conclusion, in the banking sector cleanup, we were even told that there was not going to be layoffs. How many people were net layoffs? How many people went to the court? About 137 of them. The court asked that they should be paid all their monies.
So your conclusion is?
So, you see, I am saying that we had a president who had the opportunity to come and speak confidence to the people of Ghana. Unfortunately, he came and worsened the situation.
Oh, how?
The president worsened the situation because, look, he has not told contractors how they are going to be paid. And I keep insisting that many contractors have suffered either heart attacks, strokes, or some of them have died because they have not been paid. And you have not told them anything. And you are coming to tell us that in spite of the fact that we, the businesses that are run in this nation, they have not been paid. You owe them so much amount of money. You turn around to say that you are going to inspire GRA to go after these companies that you have not paid. How are they going to pay their taxes when you have not paid them their money?
Mr. Hussaini, I got a message because I bought a government instrument and my maturity date was elongated. It will mean that in a normal scheme of things, if I want to liquidate, I will have to suffer, right? You have been a banker before. You know, and you know that is going around. Some people have had their maturity date of their fixed deposits or some bonds or some T-bills extended. Is that not true?
But your investment is intact. They didn't tell you
but
that
if I
were going to pay you at a
yes, it is intact. Only if I make through the maturity date.
You invest to solve problems. Now the problem is here and you want to liquidate.
Okay, your conclusion.
And you are told that you can't liquidate today.
3 minutes.
Honorable Sweeney was on government has borrowed 400. We have not borrowed 400 billion. We have not.
What's our debt stock?
But just
what's our debt stock?
When the exchange rate changes, what they borrowed to do the Ridge Hospital.
Go and read Dr. Baumia's presentation.
Terminal 3, Circle Dubai, they borrowed in dollars. Today, whilst even when the exchange rate shifts.
Oh, please, let's when
the exchange rate shifts,
please,
they borrowed to do Ghana gas. I mean, the proverbial Ghana gas, that's
when we are talking, he can
they borrowed in dollars. Even by the exchange rate changing, by the shift of the exchange rate, it adds up to our debt stock. We have not borrowed 400 billion. And nobody can prove to us that we are borrowed. And the debt stock that is talking.
Debt stock?
The effect of the exchange rate.
What was it?
But you're not the one asking the question.
The effect of the exchange rate on debt that the NDC are taking. We have to suffer that. That is the. You see, when on the point 3 of the 12 points that we have been talking about the market women situation and all of that. Yes, moral situation is even part of central bank managing other banks. Can urge the banks.
We didn't know until today.
You didn't know, but it's been in the literature. I learned about it.
It's not about the knowledge. I'm saying that we didn't know. We didn't know about the action.
You didn't know, but I'm telling you that moral
the man who did.
No, he said that he didn't know about it.
No. I'm saying that we didn't. No. I'm not talking about.
Don't say that you didn't know.
No.
I'm telling you that it is a too available.
Listen to me. I'm saying that these actions, we didn't know that these were being undertaken until today.
And I'm telling
you, I'm not talking about what's in the literature. We all know what's in the literature.
I am telling you that it is a tool available. As and when it is necessary for the regulators to use, they will apply to it. So when you say you don't know, as if it never existed or you never mentioned.
Moral,
so it is like that. You see,
compared to
talking about going to the IMF, going to the IMF, and as if there is no way in the history that we bastardized the IMF like Bernard Mona wants us to believe. Look, if advanced and developed economies,
you said
like
those
the
who
UK
went to the IMF,
today,
it was because they did not have solutions.
So it should tell you that this is the circumstances that we could not have predicted. We couldn't have predicted this.
Joshua and Caleb went to the promised land and came back. And they were the only people who went. That's bastardizing
the Bible. But I'm telling you,
you're not versing the Bible because you're a Muslim.
But the finance minister said the IMF
did you hear the finance minister?
Will not
Roland, I am saying that
the
circumstances that took us to the IMF in 2015 is not sane. It is not sane. At the time, the challenges that the global economy is facing. I mean, listen to President Mahama when he speaks outside of this country. He says something else. When he speaks here, he says he talks about.
I am surprised that you, who said that President Mahama is a failure, will be using him as a yardstick to determine your success.
Got down to the
the people. They have listened to him.
Everybody,
and in the coming weeks, what we can
you
do
said
now.
President Mahama was a failure.
Already, I mentioned to you that as I yesterday, Kuta, were engaged in talks as to how to.
Let me get a last word
It's wrong to go and take a failure as your yardstick to measure yourself.
So you agree that?
Can I ask the question, the three of you?
John Dramani Mahama is a failure.
That is what you said. That is what you said. Why you said who is presenting?
Dr. Sarkodie, are you there?
Those who are presenting, I'm saying that is what you said. That is what you said.
Dr. Sarkodie, are you there?
You said that he was a failure. The reason for which he was not supposed to. Then you turn around to say that you are using that. That is wrong. Don't do that. That is not right. You can't say that he was a failure. And
no, you said it, not me.
Dr. Sarkodie, can you hear me?
People said that. So.
All right, can I ask a question, the two of you? Calm down. Drink water. Awake purified water is here.
He needs it. Give it to him.
Take it.
Add it.
You can have mine.
Okay, it's okay. All right.
I'm cool.
Dr. Sarkodie.
Yes.
As we
I can hear you.
Okay, as we conclude, how should we factor in debt restructuring, which will include elongation of maturity, which seem to be of instruments that people have invested in, which seem to be lost in the conversation?
The elongation of maturity.
Yes, as part of.
So, for example,
as part of debt restructuring, and whether that also in people's own objectives and goals by way of their own investments, that also leads to some losses to them in the whole conversation.
Well, an elongation of maturity, I'm not sure it may lead to some losses. It depends on how you calculate the losses. If the government is paying the interest, I'm not sure it will be a loss. But if the individual wants his money maybe after 2 years or in 2022, and you tell the individual that I can pay in 2023, and if he's not willing to accept that offer, then in his own view, it's a loss. That if you are describing all these things as haircut, possible loss, then every other option or every other aspect of debt restructuring is a haircut. I'm saying that there are various options, one of which is what you have mentioned, to give a longer maturity period, and that is not a haircut.
All right.
A haircut is just giving what? A haircut is just giving a lower market value of your assets. That's it. If I bought 2,000 and you are saying that, okay, I can't pay 2,000, I can pay 1,500, that is a haircut. But if I say, oh, I have to pay you in 2022, but please let me pay in 2023, that is not a haircut. Then every other debt restructuring is a haircut. If that is the way you want to go, then every other debt restructuring option is a haircut. And let me say this before I forget, Mr. Bernard. I am with UTAG. UTAG is on strike. My allowance has not been paid, and we are all feeling the heat. I have been as objective as anybody on this set. There are a number of times I've come to TV3 and I hear text message people praising me. You spoke well today. If today is not going well with people's understanding, then that's fair enough. I am not here to do any government bid. I am also suffering the heat. Above fuel yesterday at a high price, I am suffering.
Thank you.
But I'm saying that if you are talking about economic principles, then you should be as objective as possible and talk about all the options and not put the haircut in front of all the options. There are trained economists. If you don't regard degrees in economics, that's fair enough. If you think that the person managing the economy is an economist and not the one in the classroom, that's fair enough. That's your idea. But in that sense, then everybody will be an economist. Whoever is managing an economy is an economist. And it is not, they are trained economists. And there are people who are not trained economists. And because they come on TV and call themselves economists, people listen to them. Meanwhile, the theories that they are propounding are false. And that is my statement. And all the professors that I've spoken to yesterday agree with me. Okay. If you don't regard degree, that's fair enough. There are trained economists in this country. If the economy is failing, is the economy failing? Yes, we are in challenges. There are difficulties. Does that make us failures? No, never. I have received emails from colleagues from outside of this country, from US and UK, asking me, are there economists in Ghana? I said yes. They said, why is your economy, having these challenges? And I said, but we are not in charge. Okay, so the fact that economists is not in charge, or the one in charge is not an economist, does not make the discipline economics a failure.
All right.
And we must understand this.
All right.
There are people who have schooled, who have degrees in economics, and they are trained economists. If somebody is managing the economy, if somebody is a president, is managing the economy, he is not an economist. Just by the fact that he's managing the economy, he is not. Why does he have, economic advisors? And so you may have no regard for degree. That's fair enough. But I want to have my degree, and I want to encourage those who want to have their degrees in economics.
All right.
And study it. And when they get a chance, they make input. I have gotten a chance to make input into the budget way back in 2007 when I was in level 300.
All right.
Did the government implement it? No. Does that make you a failure? No. And so you can only suggest, if an economist can only advise, you can only suggest. It is not taking, it doesn't make you a failure.
It is fair.
All right. All right,
let
Dr. Sarkodie, this is not in any way to impugn on your reputation, and then also I just have to state it clearly that if people have diverse views from yours, it doesn't mean that they don't necessarily have.
Let him get it clear from me as well. Let him get it. Can I make my point when he was speaking? Let Dr. Sarkodie get it clear.
He also goes to the same market.
That me, I also studied economics, first degree and second degree.
Hey, Charlie, it's a matter of
degrees. So it is not about the lack of respect for degrees, but that when we come to speak about issues,
I'm going to get my economic certificate from Legon.
From him, because I know he's one of your teachers, so don't worry about that. So let it be clear that we are not speaking out of ignorance.
But he's made a point.
He made a point. Disrespect for degrees.
No,
he didn't. He didn't.
What he's saying is that I
we have to go for a break. Please make sure that you join us for Green Day. Comment the hashtag. I've had some great guests this morning. Al Hassan Suhiyini is a member of Parliament for Tamale North.
I am in the professional space does not mean that I am not.
I went to school to study some economics.
Inusa Husseini, member of Parliament. Former Husseini Issa. Inusa Husseini. Inusa Husseini.
Inusa is not my name.
Inusa Husseini. Okay. Husseini Issa.
Thank you.
Husseini.
Let him know
Issa.
that Dr. Sarkodie.
And then also
that I also
first degree economics holder. Second degree economics holder, Bernard Mona, former chairman of the PSC. We're going for a break. We'll be right back.